Hey, you are here. I am here. Let's talk unit fractions. I don't know, whatever. Hey, welcome. It's unit fraction time. We've been doing such amazing, great work with decimals. We're now moving into the next piece of talking about fractions. Now, the cool thing is fractions and decimals are actually equivalent of one another. And you know, that is one of my favorite words out there, right? Equivalent, meaning that it has the same value, but it looks different. And my favorite example ever of this that I always go into is that whole concept of money, right? The concept of equivalent. I could have a $1 bill, which is green in its paper, and it's got like a dude's face on it. Hey, I'm a dude on a dollar bill. But its value itself is still $1. It's worth $1. So when I go in the store and there's something for $1, I can buy it. Well, an equivalent to that would be some form of coins, right? So we could talk about the idea that there are quarters, and quarters are worth 25 cents each. But when I have 4 of them, this is still $1. So their values are the same, but they look different, right? They're silver. There's like an eagle on the back of one or something like that. I don't know. You think I know what a quarter looks like these days. They're smaller and whatnot. So they look different, but they carry the same value. So when we talk about fractions, it's really that we're talking about decimals. We're just talking about them in a different form. So same value, different look, different form. Wow. I just realized this over here. Look, I said, looks different. Sorry, I don't know why, or did I erase that? Maybe I erased that. Sorry, maybe I should make a big deal of this. Anyway, we have things to talk about. Why am I delaying? So unit fractions. Unit fractions are first built, and let's look at the format of a fraction, like what a fraction is. It's formatted this way. You have A over B, right? So there's this fraction line here. And this fraction line says something. It says out of. It also says divided by. And we'll talk about that as we go, but it's kind of cool to even just express that now and get an idea of that. So you have this number on the top, you have a number on the bottom, and they are separated by this fraction line that we can say when we read it means out of or divided by. Again, we'll talk about these vocabulary words as we go, but our top word is known as our numerator, and our bottom number of a fraction is called a denominator. Okay, so, and we'll talk more about this, we'll do it. But for today, let's just kind of focus on what does a unit fraction look like? What is a unit fraction? How do we model it? What are the different ways we show it? And really, what does it mean as a value? So a unit fraction, just like a decimal, a fraction itself is a part of a whole. So it's actually really less than, right? A fraction is less than a whole. And we'll kind of talk about that. And a unit fraction, specifically unit fraction, refers to when our numerator is the number 1. So here's just a few examples of that. Sorry, just thinking of a fun new color. So like 1 out of 3, or 1 divided by 3, which we'll talk more about really what that means, but you can get an idea that's a lot like decimals, right? When we got smaller. 1 out of 9, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 100. These are unit fractions. We could also read that as 1/100th or 1/10 or 1/3 or 1/9 or 1/4. But again, these are unit fractions. And the reason they're unit fraction is because we're talking about the 1 unit out of the whole. Okay, so that numerator is the number on top is a unit fraction, is the number 1. It's the 1 piece that we have out of our whole. So again, what does this all mean? And this is where things will start to change. We've gotten really good with number lines. So hold on to your hats because things are about to get wild. So let's talk about this today. I made this chart that is squished in the corner about a fraction, but let's just play around with a little bit. So I'm going to start. Let's talk about the unit fraction 1 out of 2. Okay. So we're going to model this in multiple ways. We're going to model it as a fraction set. We're going to model it as a fraction part. We're going to model it on a number line. So let's start with the number line. Now, this is what is tricky. We've been learning this whole time that every place value has a value of 10. That is why it's called base 10. And as we take numbers, we've been dividing them into 10 parts because we're always thinking about what's in between each number. Yes, this is where fractions get a little different. The concept of a fraction is this. The denominator, this bottom number that we have that we've been talking about shortly, and I know this is all early, so don't worry, it'll make sense, is actually referring to the amount of pieces I cut my number line into. So actually in this case, because we know we're dealing with something smaller than 1, I have a number line that goes from 0 to 1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into 2 pieces. So that's actually cutting it right in the middle. And that's where you can see we have 2 pieces. Let me show you the 2 pieces, right? This would be 1 piece, and this would be the second piece. Okay, so kind of look at how that's done. Okay, so again, 1 piece, 2 pieces, and that's how we kind of cut that. Now, if we think about and label then these so-called pieces, right? This is the 0 out of 2 pieces that I have. This is 1 out of 2, and this is 2 out of 2, which is the same thing as 1. So 1 out of 2 on a number line, or 1/2, or 1 divided by 2 would be right there on a number line, right in the middle between 0 and 1. Don't worry, it'll make more sense. So let's keep exploring. A fractional part then is the same idea, but it's done with a model. So in this case, I'm going to take and model a rectangle because I find those are the easiest. My denominator tells me how many pieces I need. I need 2. So I'm going to cut that right in half. You can see I have 1 piece here, 2 pieces here. And then the numerator, or in this case, because we have a unit fraction, the 1 is how many of these we are going to shade in, or how many we possess or have or whatever. And what's kind of crazy about a fractional part is that you can see it's actually just like a number line, because look at this. 0, 1, and here's 1 out of 2 right in the middle, right? So again, that would kind of how it goes. So that's, sorry. Sometimes I'm like, well, that's cool, but maybe that doesn't make any sense right now. And that's okay because we're still learning. Yay. So our number line, fractional part. Next is our fractional set. Don't worry, we're going to practice more with this. More and more practice. Don't worry. So a fractional set then is just like a picture of this idea. So again, I go to my fraction, and your fraction tells you everything. Your best friend in a fraction is the denominator, the bottom number, because it's going to tell you what the whole is, right? Like what we have, what's going to happen. So if I think about a set of something, like, I don't know, like a table setting, you would have a fork, a knife, a plate, a glass, to put some water in. I don't know. That's a set of things. Or let's see, what else comes in sets? We call them pairs with socks, but it's a set. There's more than one of them, right? What else comes in sets? I guess you could think about like a package of markers. That's a set because it's one package, but it has all these different, like 10 different markers in it. So anyway, a set tells us that in this case, with this unit fraction of 1 out of 2, the denominator is 2. So that what that means is I have 2 things. I'm just going to use circles. And then the numerator tells me how many of those I can just color in. So here's a set. I have 2 circles, and 1 out of the 2 circles is colored in. That set could also be something like this, where you could say, oh, well, I have 2 circles, but 1 out of the 2 is green, right? So there's some other ways we can do this. We can get creative with it. So let's continue to play. Sorry, I get so caught up and so excited. Let's look at these other unit fractions. So let's take the unit fraction 1 out of 3. Again, it's a unit fraction because the numerator is 1. Okay, so what this tells me is, again, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a number line. Now I know the fraction is smaller than 1, so my number line is going to be between 0 and 1. And then the numerator, right? That's where we're going. But first I got to think about, how am I going to cut this up? Well, I'm going to look at the denominator, and the denominator says 3 parts. So I have to cut this into 3 parts. And again, there's 1 part, 2 parts, and 3 parts. So that's, again, how we can see that. And it's really tricky. It's like how we were modeling before, right? This is like how we can model it. If we're cutting up a number line and I want to make 3 pieces, then I make 2 lines. And that's true. Look, 1, 2. Okay. So get the pieces away. I have 3 pieces. And if we wanted to label that to kind of help us to think about this, this would be the 0 out of 3, because that's the denominator. This would be the 1 out of 3. This would actually be 2 out of 3. And this would be 3 out of 3. And we're just focusing on a unit fraction, which is 1 out of 3. And we can see that that's right here on my number line. So there it is, 1 out of 3 on a number line, or 1/3, or 1 divided by 3, which is true. I just took the number 1 and divided it into 3 parts. Anyway, let's talk about the fractional part. So the fractional part now is, I'm going to take a model, and trust me, the rectangle, best friend for a model. It can be anything. You just have to make sure it's equal pieces, but trust me, the rectangle is the way to go. Circles, super complicated. And I think that's weird because they always talk about fractions and they're like, hey, check out this pizza. Well, pizzas are round and they're hard to always make equal parts, and it gets chaotic, and your friend gets a bigger slice, and that's not a real fraction, and you're upset and the whole world falls apart. So rectangles. So fractional part, if we look at this rectangle here, we have 3 pieces. So I'm going to cut this into 3 pieces, 1 piece, 2 piece, 3 piece. The numerator says I have 1 of them colored in, or 1 of them shaded in, however you want to think about it. So boom, there's the fraction 1 out of 3, or 1/3. 3 pieces, I have 1 of them. It's like if you took a candy bar and you split it with your 2 other friends evenly, you and your 2 friends, 3 people, you would each get this amount. Now we got a set. So the fractional set says, all right, three things. So maybe this time I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. And there's 3 things. And my fractional set just states that 1 of them is a circle. 1 out of 3 things is different. Okay, I know that's a lot, and I always go off on the side tangents, and I get so excited about math. And oh, look at this, and then this happens. So let's talk about this some more. It's like all about just practicing. So I'm going to make that chart again, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit. Let's go fraction here, and let's go number line here, and let's go set here, and let's go part here. Okay, so this helps us if we mix it around to really know what is what. So first, again, remember, we're talking about unit fractions here. A unit fraction is a fraction that has the numerator of 1. So 1, what do we do? Let's do 1 out of 4 this time, or 1/4, or 1 divided by 4. Cool. Number line. Well, this is still smaller than the number 1. So again, I'm going to go 0 and 1. But this time I'm gonna have to cut it into 4 pieces. So this is the trick for 4, 1 in the middle, and then the middle, and the middle. And then I get 4. I like making my middle one a little bit bigger because it's kind of helping me. And then I could label this. This is 1 out of 4. This would be 2 out of 4. This would be 3 out of 4. And this would be 4 out of 4, or the number 1. And then again, we want 1 out of 4, so we just put a dot here. Okay, all right. Now I want to make a set. Well, again, a set means I just need, according to my denominator, 4 things, whatever I want. Maybe I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, cool. there's 4 items. One of them is a triangle. So 1 out of 4 is a triangle. The rest are squares. Well, they were supposed to be squares, but I think freehanding, I didn't quite draw the perfect square, but there you have it. All right. Part. Part means I'm going to take a model. Again, the rectangle is your greatest friend. And I'm just going to cut it into 4 parts because that's what the denominator says. 1, 1, 1, right? Middle, middle, middle. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. And again, because it's a unit fraction, I really only need to focus on the numerator saying 1. So there's 1 out of 4. Great. Let's do another one. This is fun. Let's do 1 out of 5. And guess what? It's the same routine. Number line, cool. 0 and 1. Got to cut this into 5 equal pieces. So that means I need 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. And, look around and play with it. Like if I look at that, like this isn't quite equal because like this piece is bigger than this piece. So don't settle. Like play around a little bit, erase. That's the cool thing about having pencils when you work is you can 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can play around and erase and try it again. Okay, that looks a little bit better. It's not perfect. We're drawing with our hands. We're doing the best we can. But again, it works. This would be 1 out of 5 and 2 out of 5 and 3 out of 5, 4 out of 5, and then 1 is 5 out of 5. And then 1 out of 5 is right here. Okay, now we need a set. Okay, well, let's make a set. A set means I need 5 things, but because the unit fraction is 1 out of 5, then one of those 5 things is going to be different. So I'm going to go with 1 pink star. And then I'm going to do 2, 3, 4 purple stars, which again is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. That's what the denominator says. But one of them is pink. And now I'm going to do a part. Now watch this. I hope you're starting to see a bit of a pattern because what I'm going to do this time is I'm going to really try to make my model the same size. Super handy when you get later into comparing fractions. And then I'm going to cut this into 5 pieces. So I need 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's pretty. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces. And then it's a unit fraction. So my numerator is 1. So I'm going to color in 1 piece. And that's what 1 out of 5 looks like. Now, if you notice, if you look at the fraction above it, you can start to think about value and size. Look at the size of this piece versus the size of this piece. So this is pretty cool. Maybe you notice something. Maybe you don't. That's fine. We're going to learn it. Okay. I don't want to get too far into this, but I want to do one more of these pages so we can kind of get a vibe and a feel. And notice I'm just going in order of my unit fractions. We did 1 out of 2, 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4, 1 out of 5. We could do 1 out of 6, 1 out of 7, 1 out of 8. Those are all unit fractions. This next one, I'm just going to do 1. Let's do 1 out of 10. Let's mix it up. Again, let's mix up the location. So here's my fraction, 1 out of 10. Let's do the number line here. Let's do a set here. And let's do a part here. Okay. Ooh, I know I'm wild. I'm mixing it up. Okay, so fraction, unit fraction, 1 out of 10, or 1 divided by 10, or 1/10. So many different names for fractions. But remember, those are all equivalent names, so they mean the same thing. So my number line, we should know this one. This is a lot like a decimal, right? This is the tenths, so 1/10. So I got 1, and I got, no, what? I got 0 and 1. Ha! I tried to trick you. Just kidding. That was a mistake. But I'm sure you were screaming at the computer like, that's wrong. Denominator says 10 pieces. So I'm going to cut this into 10 pieces. Remember the trick with 10. 1 in the middle, 4 on each side. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then again, 1/10, 2/10. I like to alternate when numbers are bigger so they don't get crammed. And alternate, I mean like up, then down, right? This is 5/10 or the middle because 5 is the middle of 10. 6/10, 7/10, 8/10, 9/10, and the number one in this case is 10/10. And again, we'll learn more about this, so don't stress. Just picking up, how do you do it on a number line? How do you put it on a part? How do you make a set out of it, right? And according to this numerator here, I'm at 1/10, my unit fraction. So there I go. Sweet. I'm going to rewrite this because I wrote so much stuff over it. So 1/10. Okay, cool. So now our part. So again, with our part, oh, here, I'll mix it up a little bit. Maybe I'll draw it this way, and that's okay. We can. So I'm going to take it. I got to cut it into 10 pieces. So again, one in the middle, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 10 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the unit fraction just says that 1/10 is colored in. And I would always just do the first one. It's easier. Don't get tricky. Don't play around. Don't go. I mean, you could shade in another one. You could, but then it gets, I don't know. Just stick with the first one. It makes life easier. Trust me. Okay. So then we need a set. So a fractional set in this case, I haven't used red yet once. We have 1/10 total things. So I need 10 things. Oh, this is fun. Let's play with this. Watch this. See if you can figure this one out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so this is fun because this is actually a set. I have 10 things. I have 10 different numbers, but one of them is different. Ooh, look, can you figure it out? Right? So again, here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things. But the fraction says one of them is different. Well, here's my one that's different. Wow, that should be a highlighter instead of like going under and over it. Here's my one that's different. It's the 4 because that's an even number while all the others were odd. Odd, 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 odd. Look at me get tricky. Hey. All right. Anyway, that's your brief introduction. It's probably a lot because I can't help myself but talk and go on and on. But again, just kind of break it down and think about what this means. And this is the skill we want to first start working on. Understanding what a unit fraction is, right? The unit fraction has a numerator of 1/4 or 1/9 or 1, right? It just means that the numerator, the top number, is a 1. And then the bottom number, denominator can be anything. And that's how many pieces it's cut into. So we cut things into pieces and so on and so forth. So again, we can take fractions and put them on number lines. We can put them into what we call fractional parts, and we can put them into what we call fractional sets. Oh, this guy agrees. See, it's like a robot. I am a math robot. I agree with what you are saying. Boop, 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 boop. And then, of course, we can write it as a fraction. Whoa, not like that. We can write it as a fraction, which is really the standard form. So that's what I got. I think I'm done. I hope you stuck with this whole video. I hope you didn't roll your eyes too many times. Appreciate your hard work. Keep it up. Remember, norm in math. If it doesn't make sense, ask questions until it does. It's okay that it doesn't make sense. That's math. We explore it until it makes sense. Until next time, please come back. We'll see you later. Peace.